Well, a tragic scene of carnage, blood, and destruction as the Shifa Hospital, the largest hospital in the Syrian town of Afrin in northwestern Syria, has been utterly and completely destroyed by what is believed to have been a shell or a missile. Multiple shells and missiles were fired into the city of Afrin, killing well over 19 and injuring dozens more. We know that the emergency room has been destroyed. We know that the delivery room has been destroyed, and that women and children are some of those who have been killed by this latest attack. This seems to have been a directly targeted attack against the Shifa Hospital and against civilian population centers in the city of Saf, believed to have been perpetrated by the YPG, a terror group that is the extension, the Syrian extension of the internationally designated far-left terror group, the PKK. We spoke earlier today with one of the doctors by phone, the head doctor, that is, of the Shifa Hospital. Luckily, he was okay. He confirmed to us that multiple other doctors, his colleagues and nurses, were among those who were killed and wounded in this attack. Of course, this is not a new tactic. We have seen hospitals, including underground hospitals, being specifically targeted by the Assad regime and by the Russian Air Force in the neighboring Idlib province, as violence starts and attacks by the regime are ratcheting up in that area. And what's so unprecedented about this specific attack in Afrin is that it seems that the YPG terror group used long-range, perhaps precision-guided munitions and artillery fire from an area, the Tal Rifat area, the northern Aleppo province, that's controlled by the Assad regime, and there's a Russian military presence in that area. So this may be an instance where the regime and the Russians are trying to send a message. And we do know that the YPG in the past has launched terror attacks, guerrilla warfare in Afrin and other parts of Syria, including IEDs and car bombs and suicide bombings. But this is the first time that we've seen them using long-range artillery fire and missile fire specifically to destroy a hospital. Now, you may ask, why would they target a hospital? It's a terror tactic to cause chaos, to try to make these parts of Syria, which are liberated from the regime and from the YPG, to make them ungovernable at a time when the Assad regime is facing significant internal pressures and turmoil. A tragedy, a terrible tragedy, women and children amongst those killed, amongst the 19 killed, with the Shifa Hospital being completely destroyed and many civilians being killed and injured in other artillery and rocket strikes in the Syrian town of Afrin. A very terrible situation all around, and we're going to be continuing covering it and getting you updates. Well, in other parts of Syria, in the Idlib province, we did see the Turkish military launch retaliatory artillery fire. The Turkish military in other parts of Syria and in northern Iraq has launched a campaign against the PKK, a terror group, so we may see some retaliation on that end. But what makes it so much more complicated geopolitically is that the YPG launching these attacks from Tal Rifat, this is an area that's controlled by the Assad regime, and there's a nearby Russian military position. So that makes the situation even more complicated, beyond the human tragedy of Syrians yet again finding themselves being directly targeted. Hospitals yet again in Syria being destroyed. Women and children waiting in the emergency room and in the delivering room being directly targeted and killed. Some of the footage is just too horrific. We can't show it to our viewers, but many of the Syrians that we spoke to on the ground believe that told us that this is a tactic that the Assad regime and that the YPG has used time and time again, and now yet another tragedy, another bloodbath, what the Syrians are calling a massacre in the Shifa Hospital of Afrin.